that you shouldn't be using pictures from other people.
From Google.
And that, right.
Right.
Google was just a small company back then, but I wanted to make my own pictures. So for my website, do those two play together for you at all, or are they two separate worlds?
Well, I mean, now they're separate because of, I guess the caliber and level I am on the website design. However, true to form, to our points of commonality, that's exactly how I got into photography. Mm-hmm. I was doing web design for a long time, but I was tired of going to try to find either paying for stock photos or just trying to search through Yahoo, because I don't think Google was as popular then, but also Google for images that I could use as a stock image on a website. I got tired of it, so I wanted to do my own. So that's when I got my first digital Rebel. And it took me 1.5 years to learn how to shoot manual mode on there, or to even know that that's what I needed to do to get the good pictures.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, those worlds. The good thing about web design and photography now is in doing web design, I find inspiration for something I want to do photography-wise, because depending on the company or the design I'm creating, it can a lot of times lead me down an avenue of something else to shoot.
Okay. And so, as far as inspiration goes, do you get your inspiration from anything in particular? Do you have to get kind of pumped up for a shoot sometimes, or where do you find the motivation to keep pushing forward within your photography?
Well, inspirationally speaking, I get it from everywhere. Before, I'm almost ashamed to say this, I used to have this closed box mentality of I don't care what other photographers have done or are doing. I want to forge my own path. And while part of that statement is good, to forge your own path, it's horrible to think, it's hard to forge your own path if you don't know the other paths that others have taken. Mm-hmm. So learning those paths and going through and seeing the work, like the old work people used to do long before they had Photoshop and long before there were digital cameras. And I'm not sure if either one of us would have been able to, one, get the gear and the financial investment going to do photography before digital cameras. Mm-hmm. Because you can't take a picture and see how it looks and then go into Photoshop and edit it to make it look better. Right. So when you look at a lot of what Irving PENN used to do, Richard AVEDON used to do, to get these great images, and especially in the fashion and beauty world, which is where I started, it was amazing. Utterly amazing.
Yeah. And you mentioned, something that we've always joked about since day one, and just to know how good of friends that we actually are. We have like code words for stuff. So that's the ultimate right. sign that you really know somebody when you develop a system of how to communicate when people don't know, so people don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm missing a beat.
Yeah. But, one of the things that we used to joke about a lot, and we don't do so much anymore, we would talk about, what other photographers were doing, and it was, I guess in jest back then, but at least for me, what made me kind of stop doing that is I learned, I didn't want to pay attention to those people anymore. I didn't want to know what they were doing anymore, because I felt like I heard this one quote, my only competition is me in the past. That's something Prince said in this song. That's why I first heard it. I don't know if he invented it, but that's why I first heard it. And it made me think, I shouldn't worry about what these people are doing anymore. And it put me into a phase of not even looking at anybody else's work. So like any of the local photographers, I don't know what's going on with those guys. I might look at the big, photographers, like the international photographers. I look at their stuff sometimes just because I'm a fan,
Right.
but not necessarily for any inspiration, not to get any ideas. Um, what would you say, you know, about the way you used to look at others' work compared to the way you look at it now?
It was a lot of the same. I mean, I used to be in awe because my photos didn't look like their photos.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until a girl called me out on MySpace about my photos. I was seeking for feedback from one of my first couple of photo shoots on MySpace, and I asked one of my friends why she didn't say anything. And she was like, I mean, they're all right. It's not like something you'd see in a magazine somewhere.
Right.
And, early on, you gotta either have a thick skin or be prepared for the criticism.
Right.
And I have a thick skin. I was not prepared for the criticism.
Right.
It hit me right here. I was like, oh, I couldn't stand her for a second.
Right.
But then, I did some thinking. And I was like, she was right. If I look at what I have here and what I see in this magazine, they're not on the same level.
And that's huge when somebody critiques your work.
Mm-hmm.
Because in today's with all the social media and everything being so social media oriented, people are doing photography and posting pictures just for Facebook likes,
Right.
just to be retweeted or whatever, and get likes on Instagram followers and that kind of thing.
Right.
And that's all fine and dandy, but I think deep inside, when you're a photographer and you're looking for a challenge, you look for somebody to tell you, like, you know what, you can work on this.
Right.
And that makes you push harder.
Right.
Excuse me. And, would you agree with that? Would you agree with, since from when you first started, and do you kind of like now seek for more true criticism?
I hope for true criticism. I don't seek it out. For a while I would go on to the Fred Miranda site and post images there to try to get critiques. But outside of Steady Hand, I didn't really get very many critiques, and
Let's step out here for a second.
I never want to seem like above any criticism. I would love to hear what people have to say, and what whether it's an agency, or whether it's a producer, or if it's just a regular person, what they have to say, because ultimately my photos are for the world.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just for me. They're not just for another person. I want them to be viewed and loved or hated by some of everyone. So
and the key point is for the world, not for the gram, not for the Vine.
Right.
It's
right.
It's for the world to enjoy. And I think when we first started, I think we would have been considered urban photographers.
Yeah.
Or urban fashion or whatever. But now, trying to expand to more of a diverse clientele, and more of a diverse audience, that's really a sign of how we've both grown.
Right.
Since in these past 7 years, 7 years, right? And all these kids later,
Right.
And it's really something. And so I just wanted to just make sure I had a couple of points I wanted to ask real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, do you feel like the photography as an industry, or here in St. Louis, or just overall? Has it changed much since you first started?
Oh yeah, it's changed a lot. I mean, you know, when I first started, it seemed like almost anybody could start trying to do photography because of the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here we are 7 years later. The cameras that were considered the low end entry level cameras, then that level of camera is probably better than my 5D1 now.
Right.
You know, with the sensors and
Right.
the ISO. So I mean, you can come in at $400, $500, $600 and get a decent enough camera and start doing your own photos. So, you know, the challenge in this industry is going to become either what's your drive, what's your motivation, and how do you separate yourself?
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, and another thing I've noticed, it seems like the whole aspect of camaraderie it seems to be going in a different direction. And that might be a social networking thing, maybe. I'm not sure what's really driving that, but
Right.
it didn't seem easy to make other friends with photographers. Just even just 7 years ago,
Right.
everybody was kind of fighting for the same kind of clients, and you know. But now, I suppose everybody still is competing for the same clients. Yet, it appears that it might be going more towards a more friendly competition. Um, and of course, I'm talking about like with Facebook and the groups and that kind of thing.
Right.
What do you think?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it was hard. I mean, outside of a couple here, namely you.